Gary, would a fight with Josh Warrington interest you?
Of course, would it interest Josh Warrington?
I'd certainly like to fight Gary Russell Jr. You know, he's been... Yeah, listen, I go his backyard. No problem whatsoever. I think it's a sign of a real champion for someone to go do that. But, yeah, I think he's the one who's been around the featherweight division for the longest. I think 2015 he won that WBC belt, so yeah, I'd love to fight him. And then if
so I'm not sure. I'm tired of waiting on these guys. If not, I will relinquish my title and immediately move up and challenge Burchelt. He has the WBC at 130. We're gonna have to move forward. Scott,
I'm willing to compete against any of these guys that has a title. Right now I'm at 126. If they don't give me Leo, I'm gonna move up and immediately challenge Burchelt.
The WBC actually lets you move up and fight and be the mandatory for another belt. Why couldn't you fight for that belt?
Well, because I'm at 126. If I move up, I'll have to move up and fight for 130. That's why I would have to be Burchelt.
Okay.
He has the 130 belt.
But he would have to fight you.
He will have to fight. He will have to fight.
Yes!
And after Burchelt, if I don't get Leo, I'm moving up and I want Burchelt because he has the title. I want Burchelt, and after Burchelt, I want to unify with Tank, and then I'm moving up.
So when you
maybe the promotion team will make the fight happen?
I mean, it's possible, but Tank, he gonna have to wait anyway. I'm at 126. I gotta move up to fight Tank. He's not gonna move down to fight me. I want Leo Santa Cruz.
Yeah.
I want Leo Santa Cruz. After Leo Santa Cruz, then I'm moving up.
But Gary Russell's been calling out Tank. He's had a lot to say. What do you think of? What is your response to it as Tank's trainer? What is your response to a potential matchup between Gary Russell and Tank?
It's going to happen. I'm not the man that makes all that happen. I'm waiting for Gary to relinquish his belt. Okay, he getting serious then. I'm waiting for him to fight at 130. He getting serious yet. I didn't see none of that yet. So it is what it is.
How big if I'm looking at it from how do we get the most out of this? The most ain't even fighting Terrence Crawford. That's the most for one night. But the most is going at 30, dominating that. You got 6 dance partners that now all of a sudden want to fight you because you beat Burchelt. But hey, it is what it is. Like I said, I don't have no slight there. Let me tell you this, and this is the advice. If Gary was my son, I would give to him. You want the mega fights? You want to be the guy that gets these opportunities to fight the top guys and they won't fight you? I'm going to tell you what will get any top guy to want to fight Gary Russell Jr., especially if they came from 126 or was at 30 and moved around. Go slay the dragon that nobody seems to want to fight at 130 pounds. Go fight Burchelt. Burchelt ain't being really called out by nobody. And I'm barring no champions. Ain't nobody randomly saying, I want to fight Burchelt. He at 130. Gary got the WBC title at 26. Gary can go make that fight happen immediately through the rules of the WBC.
The WBC actually lets you move up and fight and be the mandatory for another belt. Why couldn't you fight for that belt?
Well, because I'm at 126. If I move up, I'll have to move up and fight for 130. That's why I would have to be Burchelt.
Okay.
He has the 130 belt.
But he would have to fight you.
He will have to fight. He will have to fight.
Yes!
And after Burchelt, I want
TBE Boxing back at you again. All right. So the Gary Russell Jr. saga continues. So as you can see from the video clips I just played, Gary Russell Jr. knows what he has to do to take his game to the next level. But instead, he's been going around using pound for pound king Terrence Bud Crawford's name, to try and raise his own profile. Okay? I mean, okay, so, people do that sometimes. Boxers do that. But you don't have to do it, disrespectfully. And you don't have to lie about it. So we know that, Gary Russell told a story about what happened with Bud Crawford. And then he made mention of some of his, witnesses that could verify what he said. And all of his witnesses basically did not verify what he said. They said he basically sucker punched Terrence Crawford. But he didn't tell us that. Russell didn't tell us that. He basically told it, he told a lie. So this is what's been going on with Gary Russell. So this is what's been going on for the past couple of weeks, couple of months. Gary Russell's out there calling out Terrence Crawford. In the meantime, instead of, making moves, actual moves, that, real moves, okay, Gary Russell Jr. is trying to make us believe that he wants to go up to welterweight to fight Terrence Crawford, but he can't go up 4 pounds to fight Burchelt. What do you think? People are not fools. If you can't go up to 130 pounds, how are you going to go up to 147 pounds? It doesn't make any sense. So I don't really understand what, Gary Russell is doing. The brother Bernard Hackett gave him some good advice. The same advice that other people have given him. The same thing that he was saying prior to them even giving him that advice is that he needs to go up to 130 pounds, slay the Dragon Burchelt, then you'll have the super featherweight belt. You got the WBA version is by Leo Santa Cruz. He had the WBA super featherweight and the WBA featherweight belt. You also have Jamal Herring, and you have Jojo Diaz. Jojo Diaz just won the title from Tevin Farmer, and Jojo Diaz has history with Gary Russell. So that's a fight that could be made, like as a rematch, and now that Jojo has a title, he lost the first one, and then they can fight now, and so that's a big fight. That if they market it right. Also, if he can beat Burchelt, which is another big fight, okay, then if he's really serious about taking on Devin Haney is the WBC champ at lightweight. So he can move up, Gary Russell can move up, become the mandatory to fight Devin Haney, and that fight could take place. So we already know how Gary Russell could really get to where he claimed he want to go. He want the big fights. He want to fight all these guys that he claims is ducking. But like I said before, I don't think anybody's ducking him. I think he's just not making the right moves, and making silly moves like calling out Terrence Crawford is just another example of that. That's not a serious move. You know what I mean? You got Burchelt out there, and you up there calling out Terrence Crawford. You can't go up. Look how many times Gary Russell say, I got to move up. I have to move up. I have to move up. But he hasn't moved up 1 pound. So what are you waiting for, Gary Russell? What are you waiting for to move up? You still waiting on Leo Santa Cruz? You're going to wait your whole career to fight Leo Santa Cruz? And with all those opportunities just going to pass you by at a higher weight, at 130 pounds, 135 pounds, but you're talking about you're not getting in the fight? You already know how to get the fights. Move up, fight Burchelt, win that fight, because you, as you yourself say, he has to fight you if you move up. But you're not moving up. You're telling us that you want to move up to 147, okay? But you can't move up to 130. You can't move up 4 pounds. Nobody believe that, man. I'm sorry, brother. You got to come better than that, okay? And, until you can start making some, real moves instead of just talk. All right. At the beginning of the video, you see that Josh said he will fight you, Warrington. He said he will fight you, right? What happened with that? Well, if you were busy having Hal Heyman send an offer to Terrence Crawford to fight Terrence Crawford, how can you? You can't pursue the fight with Warrington, right? And the same goes for Burchelt, because you're too busy trying to set up a fight with Crawford, a fight that's not going to happen. But the fight that can happen, you're not doing anything towards that. Okay, did you send an offer to Josh Warrington? Did you send an offer to Burchelt? Did you send an offer to Devin Haney? What about Shakur Stevenson? So, you know, it's one thing to talk about and tell people to come see you, but this is a business, okay? And if you're not doing the business the right way, then you know your business is not going to go the right way. And I just think that Gary Russell has been basically hiding out at 126 for like 5 years now. You know, kind of like the way Deontay Wilder was hiding out at the heavyweight, you know, for at the WBC, holding on to the WBC belt for all those years, fighting nobody. You know, during the whole reign of Klitschko, he was there. He never fought Klitschko, but when Klitschko got knocked off by AJ, all of a sudden he wants big fights. He's ready to fight. But before that, he wasn't fight. He didn't want to fight anybody. So now we have Gary Russell at featherweight. I mean, Gary Russell has been at featherweight basically his whole career. He's been featherweight champion since 2015. Didn't request an immediate rematch with Lomachenko. He claimed that Lomachenko didn't really beat him, or that he did beat him, but he wasn't at 100%. Okay, so now that you're 100%, challenge Lomachenko. But he's not doing that. He's waiting for the end of his career. Okay, so that means that that fight is never going to happen. Because every time they ask him about Lomachenko, he says, I'm going to leave that fight to the end of my career. As a matter of fact, I'm going to do a video about that, and I'll be putting that video out soon about the Lomachenko situation, the rematch that will never happen. But right now, the question is, what is Gary Russell going to do besides call out Terrence Crawford? Does he have a real move to make on the board? What is he really going to do? Is he going to challenge Burchelt? Or is he just going to, you know, walk around making noise about Terrence Crawford? So this is where it is right now. All right. The question is, can Gary Russell defeat Burchelt? Well, let's talk about that. Burchelt is a pretty good fighter from what I can see. He's strong. He's bigger than Gary. Decent reach. He seems to have power in both hands. Okay. He's pretty technical to a certain degree. You know, he has a little technique to it, what he's doing. But I don't think he's as technical as Gary Russell. I think Gary Russell have the edge on him in technique. He also has the edge on him in speed. Now, I noticed that Burchelt make a lot of wide punches, and he walks you down, you know. But his punches are kind of wide, so you can punch in between his punches. You know, if you got good defense, you know, you don't stay in the pocket long. Shoot some straight punches in between his wide punches. Move out the pocket. Give him an angle. Give him another angle, and set again, and do the same thing again. But you have to fight. You're gonna have to fight backing up. Now, I don't know if Gary is capable of doing that. He didn't really do that very well against Lomachenko. But then again, Burchelt is not Lomachenko. He's not going to give it the same kind of angles. Even though he does throw a lot of unorthodox punches. You know, he throws punches from everywhere, it seems like. So, it's going to be a tough fight. You know, it's going to be it's a good test for Gary. He says, you know, a monster. He says the best. Then that's a good test for him. He should slay the dragon, Burchelt at 130. That's a logical move from where he is right now. I'm surprised he hasn't done that already. So basically we see that the only thing that's really holding up Gary Russell is Gary Russell. He's not making the right moves. You know, he's making foolish moves, silly moves. Calling out Terrence Crawford, for example, is a perfect example of that. Instead of making real moves on the board, he's making crazy moves, silly moves, you know, ego moves. Okay? I mean, it doesn't make any sense. You know, it's not about anybody ducking him or anything like that. He just got to make the right move. So it's up to him to make the move now. So let's see, you know, what he's going to do. That's all I have for right now. This is TBE. I'm out.